Hi everyone, it's Suzanne. Welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to share with you all the books we're reading for Black History Month. The first book I want to share with you today is called A Child's Introduction to African American History. I'm really looking forward to this book. This is a new one for our library this year. And this is by Jabari Assam, and it's illustrated by Lynn Gaines. My camera seems to be having a hard time choosing what to focus on. Hopefully this video turns out okay. I'm really excited to dive in, and this will be something we do throughout the month. I just want to give you a look at that and table of contents in case you're interested. One of the things I love about this book is it's talking about Black history back from the time of slavery to today and celebrating many different types of artists. And I'll give you a look inside at the illustrations and how it's kind of laid out. Skipping through. Yeah, I can't wait to dive into this, and this will be a month-long study for sure. But I love it that it gives you compact information enough to decide if you want to go into further study on these topics. Now, my daughter is 7, so I couldn't sit down and read this whole book, obviously. But I love when there's little bits of information because she is happy next time when you want to go more in depth about a person. She's excited because she's already heard of the person. She always recognizes the name. She's really good with that. And it kind of feels to her like she knows them. She gets a bit excited and wants to know more. So I think this book is perfect for that. These are smaller picture books. This is Henry's Freedom Box, a story from the Underground Railroad. And this is by Ellen Levine and Kadir Nelson. And this is a very famous story about Henry Box. His wife and children are sold. And this is really a sweet book. It's called Ben's Trumpet. We really enjoyed this. Yeah, it's a short read, but it was beautiful, and that's by Rachel Isadora. And this one is called Tar Beach by Faith Ringgold. It's about a little girl who can fly, and she flies over the Washington Bridge, and it's a cute little story as well. I love this one. It's called Mufaro's Beautiful Daughters, an African Tale, and that's by John Steptoe. And it's about two little girls in Africa and their dad, and the king puts out a call that he wants to marry somebody, and it's about how different the two girls are. One's really nice, one is not. Lovely little story as well. The next 3 books that I'm going to show you is about the Underground Railroad, and we've had these on our shelf for a while, and I've never had an opportunity to get to them, so I made the opportunity this month for Black History Month. It's perfect. Okay, I had a little problem with my camera. I had to adjust it. I'm referencing that. In case you notice, we're at a slightly different angle. That's why. Okay, the next book that I want to mention is Good Question, Which Way to Freedom, and other questions about the Underground Railroad. And I love these good question books. They give a lot of information with wonderful illustrations. Now, like I said, my daughter is 7, so we'll read a page or 2. That's why I use a lot of flags for bookmarks. We'll get through this book this month for sure, but we might read like a page or 2 pages a day, and eventually over the month we'll have finished it. Oh, there we go. There's Henry again. So the story of Henry Box Brown. There you go. That's that book. Okay, the next book's for the Underground Railroad. We'll start with this one. This is called Voices from the Underground Railroad, Kay Winters, and illustrated by Larry Day. And this follows 2 siblings as they make their way through the Underground Railroad to freedom. I'll show you quickly the inside. We have read this, and I love the way that it's written. Yeah. This book is kind of written in poetry, in verse, so it's very lyrical to read. We enjoyed this one, and I know the subject isn't light, but to read it and it's this lyrical is helpful when you're reading to children for sure. The last book that kind of follows on that theme as well is called Freedom Over Me, 11 Slaves, Their Lives and Dreams Brought to Life by Ashley Bryan. And when I meant by theme, I meant is in the storytelling fashion and how lyrical the story is. Now, actually, Brian found a reference to these slaves' names in a document, and I love the way that it's laid out. So he starts off by saying Mrs. Mary Fairchilds had 11 slaves, and they were sold when her husband died, and then she went back to England. So you see the 11 slaves there and how much they were on the auction block for. So there's 2 stories for each person. The first one is they're telling their story in reference to being a slave. And the second one, always titled their name and then dreams. And that's about the person's, in this case, Peggy. This is about Peggy's memory of before she was a slave. And the author has done that for each one. This is Stephen, age 32, sold for $300. And this is Stephen. He was a Mr. Fairchild's apprenticed me to the carpentry trade. I work at the big house building cabins for the slaves, sheds for the cattle. And then over here, Stephen dreams. Look how gorgeous the illustrations are as well. I was enslaved in Central Africa in chained coffles. I survived a long walk to the coast. Yeah, so each one has those 2 stories. I really loved the juxtaposition. I thought it really emphasized the fact that this was so unnatural. They did have a life. Obviously, every one of these individuals had a life before slavery, and it was stolen from them. And there's always a reference to the dream. Oh, freedom, oh, freedom, oh, freedom over me. Every one of these dreams ends with what they dream of one day. In this case, it's I plan one day to draw freely from free Negro people. I will create loving portraits of their strength and beauty. An artist. I'm so grateful that I have this in our library. The City Speaks in Drums, and this is by Shantae Grant. And the artwork is by Susan Toole. This book comes with a CD. I'm really happy to feature this book here because I know many of my subscribers are actually from the States. They're not, of course, local. And this is a Nova Scotian author, which is where I'm from. And I was lucky enough to take a class with Shantae in university. And she is an amazing artist. And this is very much about our local city and how she grew up. The City Speaks in Drums. And she brings us to different locations all over Halifax. Yeah, this is very much about downtown Halifax. The City Speaks in Drums. And the CD and listening to her read that herself is amazing. Yeah. Yeah, I would never do it justice. And just in front of the library at the end of the street, natty dreadlocks whip air to the beat of the... Yeah, I can't. I'm not going to try. Yeah. So if you want something else to add to your library, this would be a great one. If you want to know a little bit more about Halifax, Nova Scotia, this would also be a great one. This next one, it's one of our favorites. Hip Hop Speaks to Children, a celebration of poetry with a beat. And this is edited by Nikki Giovanni. Not every song is really on here, but there's enough to give it a feel. Oh yeah, this one's fun. Dream Boogie by Langston Hughes. Good morning, Daddy. Ain't you heard the boogie woogie rumble of a dream deferred? Yeah, I can't do it justice. However, it's so great. I wish I could play you some of the songs. Definitely look this one up. This one you could have in your library that your kid would love listening to and referring back to for most of childhood. And it doesn't have to be even educational per se. It's just a lot of fun. Which I think is wonderful if they make poetry fun. It's had Conway West on here, Queen Latifah, Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Had a Dream speech is partly on here as well. Sterling A. Brown's Hard Luck Long Track Blues. Yeah, look. It's absolutely gorgeous. The illustrations are fun. The music is catchy. And it tells part of a history in terms of hip-hop that I think is important to know as well. This is truly one of our favorite books. I have 2 more picture books I'm going to show you. The first one is The Little People, Big Dreams. And this one is Rosa Parks. This one is written by Lisbeth Kaiser and illustrated by Marta Antello. The Little People's books are great for introducing children to certain characters, certain people from history. I find the information is a bit limited, but in terms of an introduction, it's perfect. And I love introducing these kind of stories to children because of the way that they're told. they end up remembering who the people are, and it doesn't feel like school, or it doesn't feel like you're trying to teach them something, which they don't always like. They just want to be entertained sometimes, and this is a great way to do both. The next one is Counting on Catherine, and this is by Helene Becker, and it's illustrated by Dow Pumrick. This is how Katherine Johnson saved Apollo 13. And I did love the way they told their story. They gave lots of information while keeping it interesting and brief. It was almost like it wasn't too little and it wasn't too much. See, then you have the pages where they're giving you more information. And then some where they go back to last. I just mentioned that because if it's too wordy, it doesn't matter if it's in picture book form. My daughter tends to lose interest so far before it's over. Or I have to break up the reading of the book, and sometimes it's nice to finish a book in one sitting. Yeah, love this one too. The next three picture books I'm strictly referencing because I did a whole video on musical books that I will link below. And I'll show you what they are. This is Jazz, My Music, My People. The next is, and this one was a really fun one, Duke Ellington by Andrea Davis Pinkney. And it's illustrated by Brian Pinkney. And the third one is How Jelly Roll Morton Invented Jazz. And that was by Jonah Winter, illustrated by Keith Mallett. Like I said, I'll link that video below. I think I might have had a couple more in there. I'm not sure. This happened to be in my eyesight when I grabbed my other picture books, so I thought I would mention it. Then I have three of these Who HQ series books. Love these. We have one called Who Was Frederick Douglass? Who was Coretta Scott King? Who is Michelle Obama? I won't show you any of this one because I showed it in my last haul. But in terms of who was Coretta Scott King? Now, these are chock full of information. They are not going to be read with a little kid in one sitting. And Frederick Douglass. But I love how much detailed information they give you as well as illustrations. I always learn a lot myself when I do these with my daughter. Now, the final books I'm going to show you are all middle grade novels. And this is Elijah of Buxton by Christopher Paul Curtis. There was a community in Canada called Buxton that was a settlement for slaves that came through the Underground Railroad. A lot of them settled in this community. There's still ancestors there today. Elijah was the first child born in the settlement outside of slavery. And in this story, a man that was a former slave stole money from one of Elijah's friends. And his friend was going to use that money, he was saving it, to buy family members from a slave owner in the South. Elijah goes to the States to try to get back the money. This is a dangerous journey, obviously, for Elijah. It doesn't matter that he was born free or anything. If he's caught by certain people, they can force him into being a slave. So it was a dangerous journey for him. And I'll be interested to see how this story goes. I didn't see this on Goodreads, but I watched an interview with the author, and it was mentioned that there is a Buxton Chronicles. And it's not continuing this story, but it must be a collection of stories. So look for that. Now, the next one that I came across, I'm really excited to read. And it turns out this one is a trilogy. So if we like this, we're definitely getting the next two. And this is called One Crazy Summer. And this is by Rita Williams-Garcia. And of course, this has the Newbery Honor Book Award and the Scott Odell Award for historical fiction. And she has a lot of books that have a lot of oh, look, there's more down here. National Book Award finalist. This is the Coretta Scott King Award. And this is about three girls who end up going to visit their mother who abandoned them. They were from New York, and they are going to visit their mother who lives in Oakland, California. I think this one would be of great interest to my 7-year-old daughter. And I'm looking forward to reading that for both of us. I listened to an interview with Rita Williams-Garcia about this book, as well as her other books, and I loved listening to the way that she saw the world and her writing process and why she wrote these books for young people, and I can't wait to dive into her books. The final book that I'm going to show you is called Brown Girl Dreaming, And this is by Jacqueline Woodson. This is another National Book Award winner, as well as this is a Newbery Honor Book Award. Oh, I keep forgetting that because it's so dark. It almost blends into the picture. This is also a Coretta Scott King Award winner. Now, what's special about this book is literally it's told in verse all the way through. And I know when Barack Obama was asked his favorite book list, I do believe this was one of the ones on it. This is telling her life story, but she also acknowledges this is not only telling her story from when she was a child up to date, it's also telling the story of many others in different times of history. And she grew up in the 60s and 70s. I listened to some of this on audio to see if we were going to listen to it on audio or if I was going to read it. And she is reading it and it's beautiful. It definitely reminded me of the spoken word performers that I've seen. Very powerful, each story. I found the audiobook made it even more of an experience. I could feel her energy. I felt like I was there, as well as its beautiful, beautiful writing. I have a feeling this might end up a favorite this month. We'll see. I've already decided that I want to immerse myself in this book, really appreciate it, and really experience the storytelling as well as the story itself. And how I plan on doing that is listening to the audio, but listening to pieces of it at a time. For example, I could probably sit down and read this in one day, but besides not having the time to do that, even if I did, I wouldn't want to, is my point. Because I would like to really make sure that I experience the story that's being told. And sometimes the way to do that is to tell a piece of it and let it settle in with you and kind of live with you for a couple days. So I'm going to spread this out over the month. I just need to make sure that I have enough time to do it in the way that I want to, but that's going to be a priority for me this month. So this makes the book seem even more special, and I think it is special, and I'm going to treat it as such. All right, that's everything I have today. I hope you found at least one book that might be of interest to you and your family for Black History Month. I would love to know what you guys are reading for Black History Month, or if you have suggestions that I might enjoy, or my daughter might enjoy, or both of us might enjoy. Please leave it down below. I would be very grateful for that recommendation. I will see you soon with another bookish video.